A lot of people have told me collectible hobbies are a joke, but today we're going to talk about it. Well, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to KitchenTableTCG. My name is Louie. I hope you're having yourself an absolutely amazing Saturday morning, or wherever you're watching this, whenever you're watching it, whether it be now or in the future. Hope you're having yourself a fantastic day. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about taking the collectible hobby seriously. I had an anniversary dinner with my wife tonight, and it was great. You know, for the first time in a year probably, we really got to sit down and have an actual conversation. And one of the conversations we had, she asked me this question. She said, what's the number one thing that you feel like you've taken away of the last year? What's like the big thing for yourself personally, not being a dad, not being a husband, but what's something that you feel like you've taken away personally over the last year? And what I told her is I used to listen to my family and my friends about this collecting thing and call it a hobby and almost apologize for the collecting thing. But over the last year, I have taken collecting TCGs much more seriously. In fact, I've taken it very seriously, and I've stopped like listening to people who make jokes about it and started being like, no, this is something that I love doing. This is something that I believe in. This is something that and I'm all in on collecting and investing and being involved in the trading card game hobby from a collection standpoint. And here's where I want to get with this, is that you can change your life by investing and collecting in TCGs, and that it's not silly, that it's not a silly investment, that it's not a silly thing, but that it can actually, like I'm case in point here, that it can actually change your life and that you can actually have a value to it, and it's not just some silly hobby. And so that's kind of my big takeaway from this conversation I have with my wife on the way home. And you know, first off, this isn't financial advice, this video. I want to remind everyone not to overextend in any investment, including collectible and TCGs. Don't push yourself further than you can go or than your finances can handle. But I do believe that with hard work, calculated risk, and if you remove emotion, that you can actually turn this kind of hobby into something that's really valuable to your friends, to your family, to the people around you. I'm not talking about like turning a hobby into a business. You know, I've done that on this channel. I've done that in my life. Obviously, this is now my full-time thing. You know, when you do that, when you make this a full-time job, it kind of removes a lot of the allure from it. It causes a lot of, we'll talk about that in another video. I'm not talking about that right now. That's dangerous related. What I'm talking about right now is by taking some calculated risk, by hopping in and taking collecting more seriously, I really do believe that just as a hobby side, it can actually change your life and be a very beneficial thing. And this last year, I stopped this. I stopped listening to the people in my life that were making me feel guilty. I think at some point, like I felt guilty for like having cards, and I felt guilty for investing the energy into it. I stopped listening to those people in my life over the last year. I started just saying, no, I love it, and I'm in, I'm all in. And it's led to, it's led to an amazing opportunity in my life. It's led to some really cool things. So as a result of doing that, my family has been blessed. My life has been blessed. It's been a way for me to actually impact the people around me from hobby collecting. And so I have a list of 3 things that I did differently this year that I want to share with you. 3 attitude shifts as I've been thinking about this last couple hours. 3 things that I feel like I did really differently this year that I think have led to me being more involved in this hobby and have a better outcome as a result of the hobby. So number 1, I diversified. And on this channel, I have talked about a million different TCGs, but not just did I diversify. Originally when I first got involved in this about a year and a half ago, I went for Magic the Gathering. I was all in on Magic the Gathering. The only cards I collected was Magic the Gathering. I found Flesh and Blood, and I loved Flesh and Blood so much. I basically took everything I had in Magic the Gathering from singles and investing and moved it into Flesh and Blood. Now, I didn't sell my booster boxes because it took so much time, and I didn't sell my commander decks. I kept those, but all of my singles investments that I loved to do as a Magic the Gathering collector and investor, I moved all that stuff in Flesh and Blood, 100%. There was a little bit of diversity there moving to Flesh and Blood, but as a person, I was not buying any other games. Now, over the last 6 to 8 months, what I've done a ton of is diversifying, moving from Flesh and Blood, moving from Magic the Gathering, moving to other games, and that has been incredibly successful to me. Now, Pokemon. At one point a year ago, the only Pokemon cards I owned were the Pokemon cards that I had in my attic from when I was a kid. And now my Pokemon collection has grown crazy. It's awesome. It's probably one of my biggest assets in my collecting sphere. And a lot of that has come, a lot of that diversifying has come from trading. And it's not just all about money. This is something I want you to understand. I want you to hear. We're going to do this a lot. I think there's an attitude of collecting or an attitude of investing that you have to have all this money in order to be successful. I have not found that to be the case. I live a pretty meager living. I'm not like some big, huge wig. I don't own a successful company. I didn't start when I started my local game store. Like Rudy says, you should have $50,000 in the bank. I didn't start with anything close to that. I can promise you that. Like I didn't start with I don't have some big other company behind me. It's not about money. It's just not about that stuff. And we'll get that in a second. I did a lot of trading though. I did a lot of, calculated trades. I did a lot of, trading one thing for another. And I did a lot of that and it worked really, really well for me. So number one is diversifying. I really, really suggest to you that you take a look at some of these alternative TCGs, but that you don't forget about the blue chips. And if you're all in on Magic the Gathering, just know that there's a whole nother world out there in Pokemon. And if you're all in Pokemon, just know that there's a whole other world there in these other games. And if you're all in on the blue chips, just know that there's a lot of collecting to be had and a lot of ways for you to find joy, but also increase your, this is a video. There's ways to increase your financial worth through a lot of these other games. So definitely diversify, number one. And then number two, if you're going to do that, it's going to require time. And this is where the number two is it takes time and not necessarily money. And this is what I want to get into. It's more about hard work. And if you're willing to put in the hard work for this hobby, man, I think it is very, very valuable. And this is what I'm super passionate about on the channel, is the idea that if I can do it, you can do it. Again, like I'm not some bigwig. I was never that bigwig person, but I have found a very successful, I think it's successful, I found a very successful avenue in trading card games, and you can do it too. And so it's not, it takes hard work though. I spend a ton of time looking up cards and evaluating this, that, and the other thing. I spend a ton of time thinking about it. I spend a ton of time talking about it. You have to, if you want to be successful in this, either, in my opinion, have a ton of money, which is probably not you. You either have to have a ton of money that you can just do whatever you want with, or you have to have the ability to just say, no, I'm not gonna play video games tonight. I'm not gonna do this, that, or the other thing. You have to love it. You have to just really eat it up and love it. So it's not about the money, it's about hard work. Go join a bunch of the Discord servers. At KitchenTableTCG, we have an amazing Discord server. We talk about a bunch of other games. But on the other side, there's also Discord servers and places for you to communicate. Your local game store, another place for you to learn about other games and hop in and actually pay attention to the conversations that people are having and evaluate the feel of those communities. And then the other thing I did with this it's about energy and time and not necessarily about money, is I blocked a lot of the people who are being really negative to me in my world, in this cardboard world. I just kind of blocked out their voices. And not that I don't listen to criticism or do whatever, or not that I didn't, there's a lot of times where I've said, I'm gonna do something, someone's been like, that's not a great idea, and I've listened to them and whatever. But the people who prevented me from moving forward in my life, I just blocked them. I just put them out of the radar. I defriended them. I did whatever, and it helped me a lot in this world to just people who were just overly negative. I just removed them, and then I found more energy and more passion in that. And then this attitude of, if I love something if I look at it and I find joy, if I play a game and I find joy in it, then other people will too. And just kind of trusting that jump, which has been really, really cool for me. It's been really cool to learn some new games and take more risks. Whereas before I would have been like, no, the only thing I care about is Magic the Gathering. It's the only game that, you know, has stood the test of time. I never would have gotten involved in Flesh and Blood. Never would have gotten involved in Metazoo. I never would have gotten involved in, you know, Legions or Cryptic. I never, what I would have done is just said, no, it's only about this one thing. And instead I took this attitude of like, oh, I'm gonna try this. Oh my gosh, I really like it. And if I like it, then that means somebody else will like it too. And that allowed me, that kind of brain power, not my brain, but that brain function, like allowed me to take a step and take a risk that I wouldn't have done a year and a half ago. So super interesting. And then the last thing I feel like I did, the last encouragement I have for you is that I didn't risk joy. I never, in this whole year and a half, something I've done, I feel like I've done a pretty good job of, is I haven't taken away the joy of collecting. Now there's times when I've been way up on something, or you know, I took a risk on something, I've been way up, and I just said, no, but I really love it, and it gives me joy, and that's allowed me to remain in the hobby and be still passionate about the hobby. It's not just about money, it's way more about what are the things that I love and what are the things that I enjoy, and are they giving me joy? And if I focus in on that, I tend to be more excited. And if I'm more excited, then giving the hard work and the time and the energy that's required to a hobby like this is really good. It allows me to do that. So I have a long way to go. I want to finish this out by saying I've got a long way to go. I'm no way, I'm not Rudy, right? Like I don't have a warehouse full of product or a big fancy YouTube channel with, you know, tons of viewers or whatever. I have a long way to go in my collecting life. It's only been really, I would say, I've only really been intentional about collecting in the last year. But it's been really, really good. It's allowed me to do some things as a family. You know, it's allowed me to sell this or that. The other thing, to put in a waterproof floor in my basement, and it's allowed me to do this, that, and the other thing in order to impact my family and my life. And when I go and talk to my family and they laugh about collecting cardboard or Pokemon cards or whatever, when they laugh at that, I don't tell them I told you so, but it's fun to be like, no, like I paid for that with a card. And that's a really fun thing to be able to say that you get to do. And I really believe that through the attitude of really loving the hobby and having an open mind and exploring a lot of the different elements of it, and investing a lot of time into it, that it's opened up those doors for me in my life. So it's been really, really cool. So I would encourage you to start taking collecting or investing in TCGs a little bit more seriously. Don't just look at it as a joke hobby, but actually take some thought to it. Now again, this is not financial advice. This is something you need to do with all the other things in your life. You need to have stocks and bonds and all the other fancy things that people talk about. But this isn't just a joke either. There's actual life change to happen through this hobby, and that's something you should know about and you should think about. Hope you have yourself a fantastic day. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Remember to be kind to people around you. We'll see you again next video.